Not going to lie, yours truly has had a rough go of it these past few years, which is something I think a lot of people can relate to, given the determined direction of your world since 2012 ish. But now that we've officially kicked off World War III, I sure feel a hell of a lot more optimistic about things. The United States of America has been a monstrous corporation for a very long time, with its veins primarily pumping oil and blood for the military industrial complex since around the Second World War. Getting its citizens to wrap their MK Ultra minds around that has posed a monumental challenge in any endeavor of turning things around or making the world a better place. And I'm convinced the reason is because of the cozy comforts of living in the USA up until now. That and the fact that Americans are the dumbest demographic on the face of the planet, regardless of whatever shape you think that happens to be. The illusion of choice in a two-party hydra has kept them apathetic in combing the fine details, and the team sports conditioning has kept them chasing balls or watching those who do on the weekends while their tribal aggression gets burned up in field goals and touchdowns. Picture beer and barbecue in the backyard with some Fox News in the background, and the painting of Idiot Americana is neatly hung upon the wall. Admittedly, I felt sorry for Americans for a good long while. I told myself they just lacked the proper knowledge to know what was going on, and if they did, surely they would rise up to take the reins away from a Congress or Senate sold out to AIPAC and an equally fictitious entity in the Middle East. For years, I watched all the little compartments of mice convince themselves they were cogs in a machine for change. They grouped themselves into teams like Democrat, Republican, Conservative, or Liberal. You even have neo communists or neo socialists to choose from, like Soda A or Soda B. And let's not forget the densest of them all in Democratic Socialists, the shortest bus of them all. Yet, no matter which gear you observed in the machine of America, none of them seemed to see the overall agenda they enabled in their rotations. By focusing on their own short term and self interests, they were blind to the Zionist Pied Piper playing them all to the edge of the cliff, which they are now spilling over. Regardless of what any of them say or how any of them argue, the fact remains that all their combined best laid plans ultimately brought about the reign of the talk show king currently rotting before our very eyes. Each of their efforts under the illusion of compartmentalization was a brick in the deck that built the stage of Donald Trump and his podcasting Fox News talking head animatronic show in Washington, D.C., that is finally and at long last brought America to the third and final World War. And I'm so very excited about that because I can rest easy in knowing that by the end of it, one way or another, the corporation of the United States of America will lose and finally be no more. Its stars and stripes burning up in the ether of cosmic history, remembered only by the old gods who thought it was a dumb idea to begin with. My sympathy or empathy for the citizens of the United States of America, a subsidiary of Benjamin Netanyahu, had me in a deep depression for many years because efforts of activism was like trying to wake up the masses in the stillness of a morgue. Then, the cornerstone of corruption in Jeffrey Epstein became common knowledge, and the 6 degrees of separation in the notorious files implicated everyone in the system to be party to a global, industrialized, child sex trafficking cannibal cult. It's not even a secret anymore. Can't be called a conspiracy theory. Shouldn't be shrugged away because it's not on the nightly news. These are facts. Mossad, via Epstein, has been controlling every facet of America through the most evil and vile methods of blackmail imaginable by lowly Homo sapiens. Every horrific detail laid bare for anyone with eyes to see and time away from TikTok to take a look. There is no longer an excuse of American ignorance to the nature of the beast, and having been fully informed of these facts, we watched with bated breath as Americans, with full disclosure, got their stupid files and then did absolutely nothing. The whole wide world with a Wi Fi connection is aware that the American system itself has been an instrument wielded by Zionist lunatics to literally farm human beings, rape little children, and eat infants while still connected to the womb as a means to feed their ancient deity and sick desires. Yet, not one indictment, public lynching, or righteous assassination hath been produced by the so called land of the free and home of the brave. Tons of social media virtue signaling and feigned rage on reels, but no actual boots on the brains of the infestation of pedophiles and cannibals in the good old US of A, which in a righteous land would have been the only thing going on. But, did you catch the Super Bowl? Thus, America deserves to die. Its people require the collapse of their systems and the security blankets of the state snatched away for them to fend for themselves in the coming cold of a nuclear winter. By the looks of things, that's exactly what they're going to get, too. Which brings a smile to my face so sardonic I cannot recall the last time I was this elated. Seeing the mightiest military in the Uberverse ever get its ass handed to it by the Persians on the cheap cheap is such a treat for me. I get giddy every time I hear an illegal base was blown to bits, erasing the last 2 decades of empire building in the Gulf by the neocons and their cronies. It brings me such joviality to know the American empire is spending billions of bucks to blow up cartoon jet planes on the tarmacs of Iran while Tel Aviv is being lit up like a birthday cake. Apparently, no longer able to erect its great big fancy dome to deflect. Shucks. This illegal dipshit war that Israel has pushed the corporation of Goy into will be the meat grinder that finally puts a stake in the heart of the American vampire. A 250-year-old experiment will have obvious conclusions that were completely preventable if its people had only used their brains. Maybe some morals apply too. After Iran bleeds it dry on one wrist and Zionism does the same on the other, the carcass of the United States of America will be picked over by the rest of the world. But not before Donald Trump and the gang send as many young men and women to be bullet sponges, bleeding out on impossible battlegrounds first, which would be par for the course, given the folks doing the sending worship a desert war deity with an addiction to human blood and all, which honestly won't make me weep much because if soldiers are going to die by following unlawful and immoral orders, where's the problem? No doubt the boomers and team sport retards will play the noble and heroic sacrifice routine as flag draped boxes start doing a return to sender bit, but all of that will be bullshit. No American soldier blindly getting blown to bits on the whims of a game show host is a hero, Puddin'. Your children coming back in body bags or in bits and pieces are dumb for doing so. They're not noble. They're not patriotic. They're not heroes. They're dumb. And if anyone in the military, police, or any political position going along to get along in favor of a cabal at the top that is literally eating babies happens to die in this conflict, goody goody gumdrops. They deserve to die. Their acquiescence with unlawful hierarchies being governed at the top by Zionism is the reason America has slid down this slippery slope. So, if a massacre is the bed they made, then I will lose no sleep in them lying in it. Perhaps after America's troops are turned into hamburger meat, I might pull out the world's smallest violin for Requiem, but probably not. World War III has finally cured the depression I've been dragging around this land like a weighted blanket for the entirety of my tour here. Knowing the American empire is undoubtedly dying fills my very being with happiness. For when the facade of Freedom and Liberty Incorporated finally shuts down shop, its errors and apathy can be a fresh reminder or example for those tasked with building something better on the other side of what not to do. The added bonus of the completely made up nation of Israel going extinct shortly thereafter is obviously the cherry on top, because who's left to block the blowback from the beef they start around the world? Nevertheless, after all the smoke of the mushroom clouds clear in the conclusion to this mess, your humble author, narrator, and fictional character will be quite content, having been a minister of the monad shouting, "Repent, repent, repent," for as long as I can remember, but now no longer being required to do so. You had a good thing going, America. Just like Thomas Shelby, you almost had it all. But you became complacent in the comforts of the Constitution once afforded you. You shirked your duty to guard freedom and liberty for yourself and your posterity, while evil men crept in unaware, selling you on fiat currency, incremental socialism, never ending wars, and the dumbing down of your people through indoctrination camps called public schools, while spiking the taps with Nazi toxins and spraying the sky with chemicals laced with nanotech. In less than 80 years, you allowed Zionist fanatics to snatch the keys to the kingdom away from you, and with your compliance, make a once great nation into the biggest group of global terrorists ever to stain the pages of the history books, if any will be left after this idiotic not a war. The sadness I've endured while wailing in sackcloth and ashes for a country that would not turn from its wicked ways has come to an end. As always, the Most High sends lunatics such as I in to warn a nation well in advance of the evils underneath the surface that, if left unchecked, will ultimately bring about judgment. In typical fashion, such voices crying in the wilderness are dismissed, called crazy, institutionalized, or killed in the line of their duty before the dark revelations are laid bare for all to see. Then, when everything the crazy conspiracy theorists proclaim for years becomes undeniably proven as true, and no one is left with an excuse of saying they simply did not know, that is when the great gig in the sky drops the cosmic hammer upon their heads. So, enjoy the unstoppable collapse of your country in this third world war, America. You have undoubtedly earned it. I myself will be eagerly awaiting new orders for what's after as I knock the dust from my feet and throw deuces to this failed corporation bought and paid for by AIPAC and pals to terrify the planet. Until next time, good luck, and make sure you get the perfect selfie in front of the mushroom cloud, because you won't have too awful much time to upload it to Twitter before you go poof. Toodles.
This has been downloaded content. Want more pneumatic dialogue like this? Subscribe to the DLC newsletter at downloadedcontent.com. And be sure to follow across YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, and BitChute. See you on the next transmission.